Outrage. It's all right now on Hannity Colmes.
Welcome to Hannity Colmes. I'm Alan Colmes. We get right to our top story tonight. Muslims around the world are condemning the Pope and his comments about Islam, with some even suggesting the Pope should die. Is this the beginning of the great clash of civilizations that scholars have been warning about and jihadists have been threatening? Joining us now, the author of The West's Last Chance, now available in paperback, Washington Times editor Tony Blankley from Rome, Fox News contributor Father Jonathan Morris, and the author of Mother Angelica, the news director and lead anchor for EWTN, Raymond Arroyo. We welcome you all. Father Morris, let me begin with you. As I understand it, the Pope's comments were very misinterpreted. He was quoting a 14th century emperor and then went on to say that that did not reflect his views.
That's right, and not only was his original discourse misinterpreted, but his supposed apology was misinterpreted. I think it's important we get the record straight. Pope Benedict has not issued a retraction of his words. What he has done is said this: I am very, very sorrowful. I regret the fact that some people have misinterpreted and have reacted, ironically, with violence.
It really is ironic, Raymond Arroyo, that, as we just pointed out and just showed you some video, death is being threatened in the name of Muslims not being violent. Doesn't that kind of lose the message in the first place?
Well, I think the question here, the Pope called into question the 800-pound gorilla that's been sitting on all of our dining room tables for the last several years here, and that is Islam a religion of peace, or does it wish to do the West and Christians in particular harm? I think he was trying to engage that in a provocative way, let's face it. He was trying to engage this on an intellectual plane, on the plane of reason, because he believes it's the only way to really dialogue with this faith. And you see this explosion in the Muslim world, and it's tragic in many ways, but I think he was hoping to revive the intelligentsia, if you will, of Islam, and hoping that those moderate voices would come to the fore. We haven't seen much of that over the last few days, but a little bit.
Tony Blankley, it's unusual, and this is a Pope that has had a relatively low profile up until now. He's certainly not a flamethrower. Do you think he meant to be provocative?
Well, I don't know what he meant, but judging from reading the speech several times and what he has been doing and saying quietly for the last several years, I think he intended exactly, not the deaths, of course, but he opened the speech with the allegedly controversial quote. He closed the speech with another reference to Manuel II. His whole central thesis was whether he said the Judeo-Christian God is inherently one which reason can understand. Is the same true of Allah? That is the essence of his point. I don't think he's a naif. I think he's a shrewd man, obviously a brilliant man, and I think the use even of the inflammatory or allegedly inflammatory language is the reason why the whole world is debating this necessary point tonight.
Well, Father Marsh, you made a very interesting point. He didn't really apologize for what he said. He did express regret that his words may have hurt people and sorry for the reaction his words have caused. That was a very specific and it seems well-crafted way of explaining what he did.
You're right. You know what? And I think we also need to very much understand that when the Pope says, I'm remorseful, that people have taken this out of context and have misunderstood me, he also means that. He knows that feelings are important, but he also knows that what's even more important than feelings are principles and putting down a long-term foundation for real intercultural and interreligious dialogue.
Hey, Tony Blankley, Sean Hannity here. I notice often that Christianity is attacked, Judaism is attacked. We see it in cartoons. People will make all sorts of comments on a daily basis here. Tell me if I'm wrong in my analysis. Is this what we're seeing on TV? Is this not the reaction of people, radical Islamists, those who have perverted their religion, that are looking for any excuse to create chaos?
I don't doubt that both some of the activists and some of the people in the crowds are calculatedly looking for a moment to react. But I think the problem or the issue is deeper than that, because as the Pope says, he goes to the essence of the nature of the faith of Islam and the nature whether reason can play, he says, can reason play a role in the morality of violence? So although there's no doubt that there are rabble-rousers in Islam who want the violence, this does address beyond the rabble-rousers to the more fundamental question of the nature of their faith.
Raymond, I was interested in your comments, Ray Arroyo, and good to see you all back here, by the way. You say he was purposely trying to be provocative, but then he backed off rather quickly, Ray. Why?
Well, he didn't back off. As Father Morris was saying, all he said was, I feel sorry this caused hard feelings. You're not listening to the whole message. And if you just, the following paragraph in this very, I admit, provocative line was, religion should never be used as a justification for violence.
Yeah.
And that was really the heart of this. And Sean, it was also a wake-up call to Western Europe and to us to revive our faith so that we can see, too often in the West, we look at religious understanding via Rosie O'Donnell. We don't really look deeply at this stuff. We're not looking at it as believers. So he's trying to engage Islam in a spiritual dialogue to prevent the violence we're seeing all over the world. And if he doesn't do it, Sean, who would do it?
Father Morris, I want to go back to you then. I want to go back to a little bit of the question I was asking Tony Blankley here. We are at war with Islamic fascists. We are at war with those people that use religion as a means of justifying their violence. Are we talking about the same people here, Father, that are looking for any instance to sort of radicalize more people? That's my interpretation of this. Yours?
Well, I think you're onto something there, Sean. I think it's important to look at the two ironies right now. One thing is very obvious, the irony of those who are using violence to protest violence. But there's another irony, and that is the institutions of the Muslim faith right now that are coming out of the Middle East and saying, we condemn the Pope. But never daring to step in and say, but we are also going to answer the central thesis of this Pope, and that is religion and violence don't mix. And that's the problem. It's coming from the institutions.
Tony Blankley, you in your book, and it's a terrific book that you've written, and you warn that the problem of Islamic fascism may be far worse than people are willing to admit. Do you see that in this instance?
Yes, of course, we're seeing it all the time, that it's not just a tiny fraction. We don't know what percentage of the fifth of mankind, the over billion human souls that are Islam, but it's not a fraction. It's a substantial piece. These passions touch more than just the killers. They touch an awful lot of grassroots Muslims in the same way that it touches the killers out there. So that broader population is a supportive base for the actual killers.
Thank you very much, Tony. Father, we thank you. Raymond, thank you. Coming up,